tell you, I just get all warm inside when I get to hear. I mean, I really introduced me as her friend. We've been friends now, not a long time, but fast friends. And now that she's the honorable. You know, she was honorable even before she was selected, but it's just such a pleasure. And I can't imagine anybody that I would prefer, or that I could support more representing us. Irene just is all the right stuff. And I think the comment that she just made about the importance of hearing from people who may not agree with you may be the most important and the highest compliment I think she can pay all of us. Because in reality, we are all in this together. And we all are, somewhere along the line, we're fighting really hard to make sure that we don't live in a society where one group of people who have one set of opinions get to make all the decisions. That's the worst possible thing. That's what people all over the world are dying for, is to not have a situation where there's one group. Whether they agree with us or disagree with us, they get to make all those decisions. So I think that, you know, Irene understanding that and talking about that at the beginning of the town hall tonight just shows how perfect she is to be a representative for all of us.
Okay, you're done now.
Okay. Well, it's actually easier, much easier doing that than trying to explain. The other thing that she did say in the introduction that was a little horrifying is that somehow I'm going to be able to help anybody have any insight on what's going to happen with the economy. Who knows? Who knows when it's going to catch? You know, when we're going to get traction, when we're going to go forward. You know, my sense of it is, looking at it, paying attention to it, doing what I get paid to do every day is pay attention to this stuff, but I don't know that anybody really knows for sure. I think it will catch. You know, we're seeing signs of recovery. We're seeing signs that the economy's not going to double dip. They're still concerned about that, of course. But I think the reality is we're not going to see the kind of dramatic growth that we saw in the late 80s, early 90s. And through most of the 90s. And you know what? As somebody who pays a lot of attention to this, I actually think that's a good thing. I think it's stable, slower growth is what we really need. Because what we found during the 90s and much of the 2000s is that rapid growth where you see those 18% returns or increases in economic activity that we saw was built on a bubble. And one of the things we know about bubbles, you know, that's one of those physics things. The edges, the outside of it eventually gets soft and it eventually busts. So I think we have options to move forward. I just read a piece today. I rarely have time to actually sit in my office and read sort of what really smart people are writing. I tend to be, you know, going from one thing to the next. But I actually had a little time today, and there's some really interesting work being done right now about how do we take this sort of fragile recovery and what do we do to invest? How do we change it? How do we set a glide path or a trajectory that we're actually doing the most we can so that when things start to catch, we have stable and steady growth. And that leads me to where I was going to end, but I'm going to start there, and that is with investing in knowledge and innovation. And that's something that we do horribly in the state of Colorado. You've all seen the statistics when you look at spending on higher education, when you look at spending on K-12 education, we rank consistently at the bottom, in the bottom 5 among all states in the country. And how we invest in ourselves and in our future and in our kids. And those things are not just about, don't let this turn into this conversation of unions. Don't let it turn into public schools versus charter schools. Don't let it get that simple, even though that's a pretty complicated conversation. It really is about innovation. I read a lot of blogs. I pay attention to what people are saying out there. And there's this whole theory right now it's not even a theory, it's a stream of consciousness discussion that's going on. That somehow public investments aren't wealth creating. Has anybody heard that? That's the problem, is that taxes are not wealth creating. Well, when you think about where does wealth come from? Where does real economic growth come from? It comes from knowledge and innovation. That's the foundation of it. That's what actually makes a difference over time. Not just building a bunch of new houses and selling them based on the fact that we're undervaluing financing mechanisms. That's not real economic growth. It's innovation and knowledge. That's where the U.S. has historically had an advantage. Historically, we've been the ones that have invested best in innovation and knowledge, and we've stepped away from that. And in Colorado, that's particularly true. Over the last few years, we've seen a problem because of the current economic situation. But the real challenge in Colorado is that we came into the recession of 2008 already spending less than almost every other state in the country in education. We came into the recession of 2001. Now, 2 big recessions in 1 decade is something we haven't seen in a while either. But we came into that one, back in the early 2000s, already spending less on higher education in K-12 than most states in the country. And so how is it that we expect that somehow we're just going to miraculously make up the difference even with economic recovery? Well, the truth is we're not going to. We're not going to. And one of the reasons we're not going to is because we don't pay enough in taxes. Now, I know that's a really popular thing to say, right? Because everybody says, shoot, you know, I'm struggling right now. With the price of gasoline, I mean, price of food, price of about everything. How can you possibly say we're not paying enough? Well, let me just give you a couple of statistics. Over the last 10 years, since the 90s, almost 20 years now, I guess, well, 10, 13 years, since 1999, our taxes paid per $1,000 of income have fallen in Colorado. Our income taxes have fallen about 15%. So you actually pay about 15% less today than you did in 1999 per $1,000 of income. Why is that? Because we cut our tax rates. It's not complicated rocket science. I'd like to make it that way, and then I could, you know, according to the market theory, I could be earning a whole lot more money than I do. But in reality, it's because we cut rates. Our sales taxes today, compared to the late 90s, 99 or so, we pay about 25% less of every $1,000 that we earn on sales taxes than we did 20 years ago. Or it's in 1999. I keep wanting to make it round. It's easier for me. Why? Because we lowered our rates. Because we buy stuff over the internet. How many of you buy something over the internet? Right. How many of you paid your use taxes on it? I can only hold my hand up now because I gave this talk so many times and I couldn't raise my hand, but I said, okay, Carol, write the damn check. In reality, if you buy from somebody, and it's getting harder and harder to come up with examples because more and more internet retailers are actually withholding sales taxes, which is a cool thing. But if you buy from Amazon, because they're notorious, and you buy that cool little summer dress that you wanted. Excuse me, gentlemen, you too could buy the cool little summer dress if you'd like. It's $89, right? And you look at it and you say, gosh, I'm going to save myself money because it's only going to be $89. I'm not going to have to pay that 7% sales tax that I pay if I bought it down at Northfields or at